All right, so our project for today is Jeep Cherokee XJ front door speakers. That's where they're gonna go. All we're doing is trying to replace the factory 5 1/4 speakers that sit right in there, and we're gonna get into that. So let's see what we have. And we'll shut this door so we don't waste battery, because Jeeps do not have a lot of standby battery reserve because they use pretty crappy old bulbs that burn a lot of juice. So number one tool to get those door panels off is if you go to Harbor Freight, you can get a package of metal trim tools like this. And this is probably the most useful one for getting your door trim off. And I'll show you why in a second. And of course, we have a good set of 5 1/4 speakers here. There are so many of these that you can choose from. For 96 XJ, they're 5 1/4 speakers, and that means there's basically 5 1/4 inches between those screw mounting points there. All right. Now, that might not be the end of the story, because it wasn't supposed to be an unboxing video. But the other thing that'll come up is what's called the mounting depth, and that's how deep it is. So there's the diameter, but that's the mounting depth, right? These are supposed to be something like 2 1/4 inches, 2 3/4. Really tough to find out if you're going to have a problem there. I went on Crutchfield. The problem is they only list certain brands. You know, they say those ones fit. So if you pick anything that's not on their list, you're not totally positive. Plus, within one brand, they're all different. So even if you go online and someone says, yeah, I put Alpines in, there was no problem, it doesn't mean you're not going to have a problem with those. So the only way we'll know for sure is we'll open those up and put them in. And if they're too tight, we'll make a decision then. So to get a set of tools like these, I actually ended up really enjoying having these, because within the tool set at Harbor Freight, I think it's like $15 or so, you get like 6 or 7 of these, and they're all slightly different for different applications. But some people will say, you don't need to buy nothing. You know, get a little, well, I suppose you got to buy something, but this is a little $4 or $5, crowbar that you can buy at any hardware store. I think this one's like 6, 7 inches long. And I just took an angle grinder and wallowed out one end. I did a really nasty job. I suppose you could use that too. Anything that allows you to get up and not break it. I'm going to try to show you the plugs that we have to get around. And when people go at that with a screwdriver or something, they break stuff. And I'm going to show you what you're breaking. And you don't want to break it, because if you break them, it's not terribly easy to fix them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide that up, and I want it to be on either side of it. And then I'm going to rotate it off like that, right? Can you see what that looks like? There you go. All right. So when people manhandle those, you got to remember a little piece of the head of that on this side here is actually baked into the cardboard that the door panel is made out of. So if you rip that out of that cardboard, it's useless. So the idea is you want to pop them out, but don't put any pressure on this part. All the pressure has to be on the plug itself. So when you go at those with screwdrivers, or you just go to try to rip the panel off with your hand, like a lot of people will just take this and think they can just rip it off with their hand. What you'll do is you'll rip those plugs right out of the cardboard, and then your panel will never stick down again until you get in there and take the whole thing off and glue those plugs back and all sorts of mess. So skip all that. Get a decent tool like this. Make your own tool like that. Get it around the plug. If you can see that, I'm just sliding it in around that plug and then rotating it to open it up. Now, the other thing I'll point out is there is a waterproofing barrier right there, if you can see it, that's adhered to the metal of the door. Try to keep that intact. Don't manhandle that, because that is actually pretty important for keeping water on this side over. It keeps the water over here and doesn't allow it so much over here. So we want to keep that intact. All right, so we have the plugs out, and that's going to allow us to do that. All right, now let's see if we can take a look at what those look like. So that's what you're dealing with. So you can kind of get an idea that if you break those off the cardboard, right, there's no going back. You're going to have to fix those. And they're old and they're brittle. And so use some care, and then you won't have as much work to do after. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what's stuck next. We can't move this out very far, probably just enough to get the job done, but it'll be really uncomfortable. So we can get a little bit more movement if we take this off. They make tools for this too, and on newer cars you would definitely need them because these aren't going to want to come off easy. But on an old Jeep XJ, you typically can get them off with just a little bit of pressure. You don't want to break it. Yesterday I popped it off pretty easy. There we go. There goes the adapter ring. I guess we'll have to get that out. But they're just held on by plastic over metal, right? There's a tool that helps you pop it off more evenly, but since you can get your fingers all around this, you can pretty much achieve the same thing with your fingers. So just be gentle, don't manhandle it. And what you want to avoid is any kind of levering it off like that, right? You'll break stuff if you do that. You need to make sure you come off that even back like that. All right, so in this case, I have a 7/64 Allen key. Of course, I could go grab my torque bits for my socket and put all that together. For little low torque application stuff like this, you'll find Allen key will work just fine. Right? And those will come right out. So I'm going to turn the camera off and get the rest of those out, and we'll go from there. So I got these on Amazon. Let's see if I can get the product number for you. 721002 Eagle Jeep Speaker Connect from Metra. With an adapter like this, you can see that one of the connectors is little and one is big. So they kind of take the guesswork out of it. You don't have to do nothing. And of course, that connector is going to slide right into the old Jeep connector. Old speaker connect compared to the new one. And your biggest concern, of course, is the height. But you can see they're not terribly different, right? I mean, just maybe 1/4 of an inch. So I don't think we'll have a problem there. And these are Alpine SPS 510s, if that matters to anybody. And I guess we'll know at the end of this video whether they were easy and slipped right in. So that's what it looks like when you put on those little adapters. You slide them right on. And here's the new speaker, the connection, the adapter going right into the old connection in the hole. And you can see we'll just tuck those in there and we'll see if these fit. I only have so many hands, so I'll probably have to put down the camera. Well, it's magnetic, so it's going to hold itself there for me. A look. Now, just want to give you a warning. A lot of people online were saying, be careful when you put the mounting screws back in because that's just plastic tabs there. So if you crank them down, you're going to break those plastic tabs. So make them snug, but don't go crazy. All right, so that was so easy. It wasn't even funny. Just had to throw the screws back in. All the mounting points were exactly the same. Speaker fit in depth-wise with no problem. So the last variable would be, is there any problem with shutting the panel with a little bit of a protruding tweeter? I guess we'll know that soon enough. Now, because there's a little bit of a protrusion on the vent, we may find that that's no problem. I don't know. So here we go. We start plugging these back in. If you can see, right? And they just push back in. All right, so work them around. That's it. Panel's back on. Nice and square. And always got rust, right? It's killing me. But look at that. No problems at all. It is not even touching that tweeter. If I press it, I can feel it contacting the tweeter. So talk about easy. No problem there. And I'm going to go do the other side, but I'm not going to take you along for that journey. It really doesn't matter what position this goes in, guys. If you don't like it, you can always change it later. There we go. The job is done.